is allocated to the health sector. Now, FDC Deputy Spokesperson John Chikonyogo told the press at the party headquarters in Najja Nkumbi that there is need to train Ugandan doctors to international standards and give them better incentives to prevent them from moving out of the country in search for greener pastures. The Forum for Democratic Change Party has bragged at the ruling party NRM following the election of 2 of its former members to positions of Speaker and Deputy Speaker of the 11th Parliament. The Deputy Spokesperson John Chikonyogo congratulated Anita Among and Deputy Thomas Tayebwa for assuring them the top offices in government. FDC urges Among and Tayebwa to ensure that Uganda fulfills the Abuja Declaration of allocating 15% of its national budget to health sector. Chikonyogo also emphasized the issue of human rights. Meanwhile, he says the number of votes given to the opposition contestants in both Speaker and Deputy Speakership position did not match the actual number of opposition MPs, which Chikonyogo says needs soul searching.
And slightly away from politics, we now move to courts of law, where embattled MP Mohamed Segirinya for Kawempe North and Alan Sewanyana for Machinyi East appeared at Masaka Grade 1 Magistrate Court for mention of their offences of murdering Awan Joseph Bwanika. The accused appeared in court via Zoom. Prosecution led by Richard Birivuma Mbuka informed court that investigations in the matter are complete, thus requesting court to commit the two to High Court for trial. Birivumbuka also asked leave to allow them add Awan Senyonga Wilson on the charge sheet, which court granted. The two, according to records, show that Segirinya was the master planner of the murders in Greater Masaka. Magistrate Catherine Nantege committed the two MPs, Mohamed Segirinya and Alan Sewanyana, to High Court for trial. The MPs were represented by Elias Lukwago and Counsel Shamim Malende. Mohamed Segirinya and Alan Sewanyana were accused of spearheading the Greater Masaka murders. They were remanded to Chigo Government Prison. And in another development, Magistrates Suluna Namboze of Buganda Road Court also set the 12th of April 2020 for prosecution to reply to Hassan Malema Bidizi's application. Prosecution informed that it was not set to reply to the accused's submission, asking court to avail them the court's proceedings. Mabirizi in this case is objecting prosecution's intention to take over the case of offensive communication against him, citing that prosecution lacks locus. The Office of the Director of Public Prosecution was represented by Ivan Chaze. Hassan Malema Bidizi is accused of insulting the person of Justice Musa Sekana through his social media platform.
While still in court, a court has confirmed Joel Sonyonyi, duly elected Member of Parliament for Nakawa West constituency. It follows Court of Appeal dismissing Babubahi Shukura Mukeshi's case on grounds that he failed to file the petition within the specific court's time. Meanwhile, court has indicated to deliver its judgment on the notice in the case where Frederick Munyire is challenging Wariomu's victory for Kagoma County constituency in Jinja District. The parties in the petition where Babubahi Mukeshi is challenging Joel Senyonyi's victory for Nakawa West Member of Parliament seat, which include Electoral Commission, Joel Senyonyi's lawyers and appellant's legal team, have appeared at the Court of Appeal. The parties appeared before Justice Geoffrey Chidiabwire, Stephen Musota and Justice Christopher Gashirabachi. Justices of Court of Appeal dismissed Babubahi's Shukuru's appeal on grounds that he filed it outside of court's time. The appellant Mukeshi abused court process as some documents, including the grounds of the application, were filed in court yesterday. The application was stuck out of the costs to the appellant. In the case, NRM's Babubahi Mukeshi was challenging Joel Senyonyi's victory of Nakawa West Member of Parliament seat, alleging electoral irregularities. Counsel George Musisi represented Joel Senyonyi as the duly elected Nakawa West MP.
And across the borders, delegations from Russia and Ukraine have arrived in Istanbul for the first face-to-face talks in more than 2 weeks. Ukraine says its top priority from the talks, which will begin early on Tuesday, is to negotiate a ceasefire. But hopes of progress are slim, and both the US and Ukraine have expressed skepticism about Russia's intentions. Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky pleaded overnight for world powers to toughen sanctions on Russia, including an oil embargo. Air raid sirens sounded before dawn on Tuesday, while officials say exit routes from some cities are blocked by Russian attacks. Meanwhile, sources say Russian billionaire Roman Abramovich suffered symptoms of a suspected poisoning after peace talks earlier this month. US President Joe Biden says his remark that Putin shouldn't remain in power expressed his personal moral outrage, not official US policy. Now, Russia says it is developing measures to restrict entry into the country for nationals of unfriendly countries. And back here on the African soils, fighters from a rebel group attacked an army position in the Democratic Republic of Congo's conflict-torn east overnight, triggering heavy fighting, a local official and a witness have said. I confirmed the attack since last night on our positions. Mohindo Luanzo, assistant to the military administrator of the eastern town of Rushuru, near the border with Uganda and Rwanda, said on Monday. The village of Runyoni is also besieged by the enemy, but our troops are already deployed to respond and chase the enemy, he added. The clashes began at about 1 a.m. local time near the villages of Shanzu and Runyoni, about 50 kilometers northeast of the provincial capital Goma, a witness in the latter village confirmed. We don't know who controls the area, but it looks like it's a serious attack, the witness told Reuters. This time, it was more intense than all the previous times. Now, the Kivu Security Tracker, a US-based monitor of violence in the region, said on Twitter that the fighters belong to the M23 armed group and that fighting continued until 11 a.m. The Citizens Coalition for Change, Zimbabwe's leading opposition party, has won 19 out of the 28 National Assembly seats in the long-delayed parliamentary by-elections. State-owned ZBC TV reported Sunday night that the CCC won the majority in Saturday's elections. The 9 remaining seats went to the ruling Zimbabwe Africa National Union Patriotic Front, which is the ZANU-PF, which still holds a parliamentary majority. Back in 2018, the ZANU-PF won 145 seats from the 210 available seats in parliament. And CCC spokesperson Vazai Mahere said the party's victory was evidence that citizens came together and achieved a resounding victory for the movement. The parliamentary and local government by-elections are seen as a preview of next year's presidential elections, in which the opposition is hoping to dislodge ZANU-PF, which has been in power since Zimbabwe's independence in 1980. And ahead of Saturday's polls, the ruling party was accused of conniving with state institutions to intimidate opposition supporters. A few weeks ago, a CCC member was killed in a central Zimbabwean town after he was stabbed with a spear on his way to a CCC rally. And in February, 37 of its supporters were arrested at a rally. Oh, well, that's really very upset. We can only hope that things get actually better in the country of Zimbabwe.
Well, for sure. And in the weather and climate news, a climate crisis worsened by the population and economic growth. Climate change and loss of biodiversity are the terrible twins working together to threaten human existence. Unfortunately, their wicked problems are accompanied by 2 equally important drivers of calamity: population and economic growth. Now, these 4 horsemen galloped in the unison and must be considered together. After several decades characterized by misinformation and then pre-verification on the veracity of climate change, governments are now acceding to the warnings from climate scientists and their learning experience from rapidly increasing extreme weather events. However, their actions remain insufficient to ensure future world temperatures will allow civilization to exist. Indeed, we need to arrest greenhouse gas emissions within the next 2 decades. Now, the positives are that the science is secure and we can measure our successes and failures by measuring atmospheric carbon dioxide and methane. And then we have the option of spending hundreds of billions of dollars to get those gases out of the atmosphere if all else fails. However, much climate mitigation is based on technological fixes, some of which are problematic and may indeed create their own environmental harms.
Slowly head towards that inspiration. Maybe Robert could also give us some inspiration, especially when it comes to our health every single morning.
Every morning I come to you with these two darlings because their aim is to ensure that you don't fall sick regularly. What they do is they boost your immune system. That is why you see the team here Monday to Monday. They're always here because this is what they consume to enable them be up and fight off a number of diseases. So at just 1,500, just buy yourself Hallelujah Tamarind or Hallelujah Jinga Tilo. Boost your immune system and you reduce on your medical bills. Some of you, medical bills are part of your daily life. Some even have pay in advance. You know that when you fall sick, you just go to the doctor, the physician, and they treat you. But you can avoid that by simply empowering your white blood cells to fight off a number of diseases.
And gain that energy that is necessary. You know, when you talk about energy, I remember a story that we're following up this morning about Will Smith punching Chris on stage, the energy that he used right there. I'm like, okay, this man is real definition of black guys out there. But that was violence to me and something really unacceptable for you know, such a renowned actor.
Much as you actually believe, I'm pretty sure that people who beg to differ, they actually believe that the man really did what he was supposed to do as a responsible husband, that is to defend his woman. But again, here at Good Morning Uganda, we do condone violence. I believe there are better ways that you could actually do that. Anyway,
but the man attacked his wife, and that was a medical condition. Like for you to attack someone on basis of a medical condition that anyone could literally suffer from, for me, that was also the comedian was really being, you know, out of line. In fact, we should have had both apologies. Chris should be apologizing to Will Smith and the family for having said what he said. It's not jokes about, you know, someone's health condition. So I say it was really called for to some extent.
I can tolerate any joke, but not a joke regarding health.
So Robert, you're saying you'd have actually walked to the podium?
No, for me even I have a feeling it was stage
well?
managed. Reason being, if I was the one slapping, that man would not remain on his feet. You know, joke about anything else, but something to do about health, a condition. In the Bible, the glory of a woman is her hair. And if someone is having an illness where she's losing hair, and you joke about that, I give you left, I give you right, I give you down.
Views expressed by Robert are only Robert's and Robert's alone. Well, every other day we also expect you to be part of the conversation, and definitely this morning we want to find out from you whether you think the Democratic Republic of Congo's inclusion into the East African community be impactful in the economic growth of East Africa. Will the Democratic Republic of Congo's inclusion into the East African community be impactful in the economic growth of East Africa? Well, we're going in for the inspiration for this Tuesday morning. When we get back, it will be more talk and conversation on the news rail. And also remember that we are still mourning the death of the Speaker of Parliament, that was Jacob Olanya. Good Morning Uganda returns shortly.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Pick of the day on UBC, brought to you by
how to get points. Just use MTN to make calls, send SMS, load airtime, buy bundles, or pay for MTN subscription services.
everywhere you go. MTN.
Are your children ready to learn? Schools are open. As parents and guardians, it is your duty to ensure that your children go back to school. COVID-19 prevention measures have been put in place to keep students safe as they go back to school. Not only do teachers prioritize everyone's health, including their own, but they discourage violence among students. They also ensure that students follow SOPs. Any concerns are reported to a school administrator or senior woman or man teacher for correction and further guidance. Dear parents and guardians, you too must play your role. Ensure your children always maintain a 2-meter distance from others, avoid crowded places, regularly wash their hands with soap and water, and wear a washed and clean face mask that covers their mouths and noses. please keep your children at home if they're feeling sick, and take note. In our effort to keep students safe, there are no visitation days or any other school visits allowed. Let's share knowledge, not COVID-19. This message is supported by the Ministry of Health, Ministry of Education and Sports, and UNICEF. Stay safe.
When COVID came, it felt like it destroyed everything my mom had built. She was ready to let go of her dreams. But when one door shuts, a window opens. She grabbed her last command and took a leap of faith. She refused to give up. So with a bit of daring and Grandma's secret recipe, her business was back. And not just bigger, beyond her wildest imagination.
This is a story of a regular Ugandan just like you, who harnessed the power of technology to provide a solution for us. How about you tell us your story? UG needs more of you. To share your story, visit airtel.co.ug/UG needs more of you, or call or SMS 162. Airtel, the smartphone network.
It's no secret that ICT makes learning easy.
The strides made in our field couldn't be possible without it.
And now we can watch our favorite shows.
My radio is my best friend.
UCC provides an enabling regulatory environment and policy guidance for healthy competition. We also facilitate ease of doing business in the communications sector through licensing, standardization, spectrum management, tariff regulation, rural communication development, and consumer empowerment. An informed consumer is an empowered consumer. UCC supports local content and innovations. Driving the development of a robust communication sector in Uganda is Uganda Communications Commission.
It's exactly 7 minutes after the hour of 7 a.m. right here on Good Morning Uganda. To be very specific, welcome to the newsreel. And my name is Philomena Masco. Once again, I am joined by Robert Chirabo. Of course, like always, we definitely get to delve into some of the conversations, the topical conversations, and, well, matters of national importance. Now, just to take you through what is going to shape the conversation as early as this morning, we definitely know that government allocated about 400 billion Uganda shillings. Now, this is for salary enhancement. You'd actually think that this is for very many other sectors, but no, that is not what it is. It's actually only medical and traditional scientists that are going to largely benefit from this. Of course, Uganda as a country for over quite some time now has been very, very boastful of having very, very good medical personnel. However, their salaries, Robert, have been clearly wanting. We've seen quite a number of associations, medical associations, come out to, complain, asking government to increase their salary. And not so long ago, during the COVID-19, this clearly brought the picture out where we saw interns complaining about their salaries. We saw the doctors and everybody, because at least one group of people that we can acknowledge did quite some work during the COVID, the COVID time was the doctors and everybody that is associated to the world of medicine. Well, just to take you through, according to the salary structure of Uganda, that is a 2021-2022 financial year, the highest paid medical officer in the government is the Director General of Health Services, and this person gets about 9 million Uganda shillings. Now, Robert, just maybe to take you through it or to ask you something to have you share your 2 cents. If they do indeed increase the salary of all these medical people, interns, doctors, nurses, and everyone, does this actually guarantee us that we are going to see quite an improvement in the health services, especially here in Uganda?
Thank you, Philo. To begin with, I think this is something long overdue that should have been done a long time ago. Why am I saying that? I'll begin with the medical field that government made a priority. Uganda is one of the countries that has very, very good medical brains. But we suffer a challenge of brain drain.
Yes.
What happens if you go to a number of these hospitals just within this region, you're going to find that the most consultants they have there are Ugandans. Many people have left here and gone to, I'll speak about some of the known hospitals, Aga Khan Hospital, Nairobi Hospital, and you know what you find there? You find a Sali, you find a Ruhundo, you find Ugandan doctors. You've left Uganda. And I remember Norbert Mao, that is the DP president, when he was sick, so they told him we can no longer manage your situation, we don't have the people here. He went to Nairobi, only to be treated by a Sali, speaking Luganda because Mao knows Luganda. And he was like, but let me ask, why don't you serve your country? And you're here. He said, well, I'm looking for greener pastures. Go to the United States of America. Look around these brains where they are, and why are they not home? Because believe you me, Philo, anyone would want to work closer to their home, closer to their family. You see? You have the likes of Dr. Chiyingi. Many we can mention experts that are Ugandans, but they are not in Uganda. There's one I know, he's now a professor in the United States of America. He's called Tim Sentongo. When it comes to treating children, he's lecturing others, but he's a Ugandan. For over 30 years, the man has been there with his family and all his children.
Because he's looking for greener pastures.
And almost a year, he makes sure he comes to Uganda twice. You see, he has that love for the home, for his home country. But because of the salary, he can't work in Uganda. So when government comes up and says, we need these brains, you're not going to have a specialized hospital, you're not going to have all this, and you don't have the human resource, even if you have the machines, but you're not attracting these people. Many of them, actually, in the region, you might find that Uganda is paying least
compared to other countries.
Compared to other countries within. Because Kenya, Rwanda, Tanzania, I'm also very sure, but they are paying better. So what would keep a person here when they have opportunities and they have the money? But remember, at the end of the day, you don't want to go back to those days where you have missionary doctors and the country survives on that. So when government takes that move, that is a step in the right direction. Now we go to whether salary increment or enhancement really reflects better working positions and commitment. You see, Uganda is a very interesting country. And most of the time we talk about be patriotic, patriotism, but I think we lack that will. That many of the people in the medical profession have their side gigs.
Their side hustles. Where they
many doctors today, many consultants today have their personal, either clinics or doctors' clinic, or they came and formed something. That's why even when you go to these hospitals, she will tell you, on such and such a day, I'm in Mulago. Yeah?
They have shifts. Actually, I will tell you, Robert, if you're going to meet certain doctors, when you try to get in touch with them, maybe to, book an appointment, they will tell you, probably come on Wednesday or come on a Friday. I am around here strictly for 2 hours, between 2 p.m. and 4 p.m. If you want to find me on that day and it's beyond those hours, you
find
will
me
find
in my clinic.
Yes.
In my clinic. What does this mean? No doctor will close their clinic because you're paying them much. All of them will tell you on such a, and even now people know, musange mu kiliniki ye, musange mu dwaliro lye, ajja kuwa obudde bungi abana abalwadde batono. You get it?
Yes.
You know, there are two sectors in our country that I feel either we need to have proper regulation. One is education and health. Many of the officials in Ministry of Education that even are supposed to regulate own schools. For us, Baganda, we say kuwa mpisi kuwoza katale. Nchima tesala gwa chibira. That even when you come up with the policies, double decker, do this, do that, don't increase, the very people are the same. When it comes to health, a doctor employed by government, on full time, by the way. One time I had an incident, I went to Chirudu Hospital. They have what they call the burns unit, so that are burnt and all that. When I reached there, I wasn't seeing doctors. So I called one of the officials, because on a notice board they were showing doctors on duty and the time. So I told him, but there are no doctors here. Just a call in about 45 minutes. Doctors were cruising and entering. So they have either pharmacies, clinics around there. So what can solve this? Yes, enhancement is good, but enhancement without proper, and I want to emphasize this, without proper monitoring and supervision is as good as nothing. It will motivate, but you see there is nowhere a person, you see, these are issues of money. We are having doctors who became doctors, not because they are willing to serve, but because it is a profession where they're expected to earn a lot. Remember when we were young, if you ask people, okay, senior 5, senior 4, I want to be a lawyer, I want to be a doctor, I want to be an engineer. If you ask them, leave alone the prestige maybe that, but they'll tell you they earn big. They are rich.
Because actually, Robert, I just wanted to ask, we see the salary increment is there. Say if a doctor has been probably earning, and I'm just making assumptions here, say about 3 million Ugandan shillings, and you've had the salary increment, and it goes all the way, say maybe 7 million Ugandan shillings. That money, I don't think it's money that will actually make a doctor want to fully concentrate on working in these hospitals. If they do have their side hustles, there are other clinics outside there where they actually take their patients. I still don't think this money is enough for them to, it's not satisfactory enough for them to make sure that they can fully concentrate and close all these clinics, because it's money. People are looking for money. Are we actually thinking that Ugandans or the Ugandan doctors, the medical personnel, are leaving what they're supposed to be doing and they've been diverted to look for totally different things?
What it will do, it will
because
motivate.
money right here is quite it's such a big aspect, and I mean, we are seeing it's influencing very many other things.
Yes, money is influencing a number of things, but for me, I think without supervision and monitoring, yes, it is a motivator that now a doctor will be better presentable. By the time we were growing up, a doctor was a doctor.
Yes.
A teacher was a teacher. Today there are doctors you look at, and they don't even create that desire to be one. We will see our doctors smartly dressed. We will see our doctors maybe not coming. A doctor is coming to treat patients, comes in a taxi, delays, they'll have the cars. Our doctors will have better places where they sleep and stay. But our doctors, their children, will go to better schools than the other ones they have been going to. So on that side, the motivation, improving their social, economic livelihood would work. But in terms of service delivery, we may not get there. And Philo, there's also another thing I don't want us to skip, is you see, medicine is not only about the salary. It's also what is in the hospital.
Because I could actually increase your salary, but what about if I'm working in a hospital that doesn't have equipment and all that? What does that mean? I'm not going to use my salary to actually buy an equipment for a hospital, because I believe if it's a government hospital, they definitely have to give me the salary increment because I need it, but I also need them to equip the hospital with all that it needs, the machinery, everything, all the tools. So where does that actually...
This should come in handy, that, okay, there's going to be salary increment, but also this is a proper plan that government is going to have stocks, is going to have equipment, is going to also improve monitoring and supervision at all these levels. That when the doctor prescribes, well, you go to the pharmacy, there is medicine. When a doctor recommends that this scan should be, this diagnosis should be carried out, there is equipment to do that. It's not all about salary increment alone. And like I said, without monitoring. So to me, I feel there is much that has to be done. But also, as people in the medical profession, you know, they take oath when they're graduating and all that. But people in this medical profession, we need to better train either, because when they leave these schools, they come as interns. You see, the medical profession in Uganda is having issues. This young boy, because I've ever gone to these public hospitals, I've ever. You see, most of the people they call doctor, musawo, in these hospitals, because the doctors and senior consultants are rarely there. So what you have are intern doctors. And guess what happens? Intern doctors at the level of internship, they're exposed to corruption immediately.
Because it's the running system. When you get in there, you become
Go
part
to
of
any
it.
public hospital. If you look for a doctor and you're not seeing him, look for the gate man, or look for any nurse, or people that are in the corridors. I want a doctor. An intern will come, because they are dressed, and for you, you are a patient. You're not going to know if this is an intern doctor or one who is graduate and is working. So we need mindset change in our medical professionals, because corruption is rooted from the gates of these hospitals to theater, to all levels. And these intern doctors, right from day one, they are breastfeeding corruption at entrance in these public institutions. So even if you're giving them better pay, and I'm happy because according to the Minister for Public Service, Honorable Nuri Mukasa, also acting for justice, he said a senior consultant will have 2 million. Then he talked about, I think that is a senior medical consultant. Then we have a graduate scientist doctor, that is at entry level, have the 4 million. Then medical officers, these include dentists and all that. Yes. We have about 5 million. But all this is very good. However, if we do not have mindset change and tell these people why they're in this medical profession, that is a life-saving profession, 1. 2, that they are working with people who don't choose. You see, a doctor doesn't work in a cupboard. That you've saved your money, Philo, or you've cracked your deal, you want to purchase a car. Illness, sickness can knock you anytime, whether you're prepared or not prepared. After how many Ugandans are on health insurance or have health insurance? So the mindset change, if it's not something that we prioritize in terms of the medical profession, whatever government may do, we may not yield much. Still people will complain, we don't see doctors in hospitals, yet they know where to find them in their side gigs. Still people will complain, we don't have the drugs there. Still the doctors will still ask for these petty monies because there is no proper regulation, there is no supervision. At the end of the day, government will have given more money. Yes, it will trickle down to the economy when they buy the cars, when their children go to good schools, when they feed very well. Yes, there will be money in circulation. But for the core purpose of improving health services and thinking that this is going to motivate them to do better, we may not achieve that.
Well, there needs to be a change in mindset. Just a reminder, the poll question is running, and that is, will DRC's inclusion into the East African community be impactful in the economic growth of East Africa? Will DRC's inclusion into the East African community be impactful in the economic growth of East Africa? Well, still continuing with the conversation, we're talking about the salary increments that is coming in for the health, the people in the health field, doctors and all. Now, Robert, about 35.5 billion Ugandan shillings, part of this money, the 400 billion, is supposed to be for the medical interns. But also the plan is actually that interns and other nurses inclusive be able to receive half of the salary of their seniors. So really, from the 400 billion Ugandan shillings, you can actually see everybody in the medical field is going to be a beneficiary, a great beneficiary. But now that leaves us with the question, what happens to other fields? I saw a number of engineers complain. They're saying, look, we don't need us to be at the same level with the doctors when it comes to this salary. The salary arrangement, but we also need to let you know that we need some of these salary enhancements, because the work we do definitely has something to play. It has a role to play when it comes to the doctors. And they were given a scenario where, say, if I'm an engineer and I do, my work surrounds construction of roads and all that, if the roads are bad, because I'm not motivated to go and work and do what I'm supposed to be doing, why is the doctor going to pass? So, I mean, this is just one group of workers complaining. We have very many other fields of people who are going to come out and complain. And the same thing I can actually say, we saw it happen when the teachers were asking for salary increments, and when the government came out and the Ministry of Education also had to say something about this, we saw that science teachers were going to be prioritized, and this did not sit well with the teachers of arts. So where does this leave the rest of other people? You know, other employees? If you're not a doctor, if you're not an intern, if you're not a nurse, and you're still a government worker, where does that leave? Where does that leave you?
The English have a saying that you cut a coat according to your cloth. It is everyone's desire that every government worker is paid something significantly reasonable to the cost of living. but also must understand that, you see, money that goes to salaries is not a one-off. We must understand that the moment you increase the salary of any category, that means if maybe Ministry of Health was spending on salaries maybe 800 billion salary allocation. Now if you increase by 400, that means 800 plus 400. And this is continuously. You get it? So, government at one time had said, let's have a phased manner of increasing salary, depending on how much the government is able to pay. Because remember, Philo, if now a doctor knows that I'm going to be earning 5 million a month, that is it. You must avail that money. It is now something that it's an added expenditure that must be fulfilled by government every month to that person. And most of the times you've seen them demonstrate, we spent 3 months without pay. So you don't want to create a scenario where you've pleased everybody, but at the end of the day, you know you cannot meet the task of these monies. I would advise government to set up a salary review commission that can review salaries of all workers. They may not be hiked in terms of so much, but may be a slight meaningfully increment on these salaries. Because everyone would say increase, increase, increase. But I also learned, life has taught me over the time, that there must be priority. Engineers do a great job, and they are scientists. Science teachers do a great job, so do other art teachers do. But you see, one of the fundamental rights is health, a right to life. Therefore, you can only have, or first priority is the health sector. That is why you find much as security is very important. I don't know when last they increased their salaries. Your UPDF going there as you're sleeping. These police officers,
they are actually running.
They are running here. They are running there. Some are now with Congo. They are this way. They are there. But you see, health, number one priority. Are you alive? Has government done what it takes? These doctors, they have to be the first priority. We believe, and we hope so, that other areas, you know, we are coming from a time of COVID-19. 2 years almost, our economy was crippling. You don't have enough revenue. You are set targets, they can't meet them. Donor aid, some of it comes well conditioned. This is going for that is going for that. So you can't excite people when you know you may not be able to fulfill that. Because some may think it is simple. You have about 28,000 teachers. If you give them this, then they make simple calculations. But if you give the 400 billion to now medicals, give another 400 billion to teachers, 400 billion maybe to engineers right from this level, 400 billion, you'll find that your budget of about 44 trillion, you may have half of that going into paying salaries. You get it, Philo? Yes. Then what is going to happen to other services that are needed?
Which actually makes me think that let us look at it right from, you know, the roots. I mean, we see people, students, university students, definitely you have to look for a major where you want to put your focus. Say you want to join the engineering industry, you want to join the, you know, medicine, you want to join security. If we see things like this happening, concentration being put specifically on one field or on certain specific fields, doesn't that clearly give us a picture that these students are going to shun these fields? Because, I mean, I cannot sit here and I know that, you know, a doctor is getting about 10 million Ugandan shillings per month and say I want to join the world of engineering and I know a government engineer earns about 4 million Ugandan shillings. Now, these are two fields of people that we need as Uganda. But I mean, I'm not going to go for the 4 million Ugandan shillings when I have an option of, you know, going for the 10 million Ugandan shillings. Now, what does this mean? Are we not seeing people shunning these fields? Teachers, right now, there are very few people you will ask and they'll confidently tell you, I want to be a teacher in Uganda.
But I also want to take you back to reality. Now let's leave the dream world. How do Ugandans get to jobs where they are when making their choices at these learning institutions? Two factors play. And I want to be very honest. Very few Ugandans will tell you, our viewer watching us today, why did you study what you're studying today? Was it your passion? Very few.
Oh, you were actually forced
and
to.
I count myself among the lucky few.
Are you saying you are not,
Yes.
you didn't want to be a journalist?
No, I wanted to.
Oh, okay.
So I count myself among the lucky few. Because I used to enjoy ballet France when I was young. One of my cousins, Kuliva, was a journalist. Ernest Bazania, I used to see him write in the New Vision. So I like that. But, Ugandans, many of them, these are the driving factors. First, your grades. You know? Many Ugandans, when filling in, your grades, you have a career masters. They'll tell you, Ghana, this is what you're going to take. 2, money. Money. You're going to mess, then they'll tell you this, journalism, 8 point this. This, I had 2 options when I wanted to be a pilot. When I was told how much
you wanted to be a pilot?
That was my first, then second journalism. When I visited a friend of mine, their parent was the director of Mengo Hospital, Humphrey, and he was at Soroti Flying School. And I looked at how much, said now I have to settle for my next option. So those are 2 driving factors. One time we used to call TTC, Tatataina. Then you had, so these are some of the driving factors. Let people not deceive you that a person, because this is not paying less. Many of you are where you are because of money, because of your grades, and still these factors will continue to play. So assuming that maybe one would go for money, one would go, yes, there are those that will go for money because many will choose, I want to be a doctor, I want to be because they believe it pays better. But how many of those still have the grades to get to that? Maybe the number of universities now, some courses, you know, the grading is being messed up. But in our days, it wasn't that. Because now you hear I did medicine from Simanyima, this, that. With the 2 principles, you can do this with all that. But those are the 2 determining factors, and I don't think that will really influence people.
Well, there you go. But we are yet to see these salary increments. But at least we know that government has come out to announce the 400 billion Ugandan shillings budget. Well in for the medical field. We can hope that this gratitude can also be extended to the rest of other fields. We're going to take a look at what is happening in the papers. That is, of course, the Daily Monitor, the New Vision, and also the Daily Nation. And later on, we'll be taking you to the roads for the traffic updates. And later on, some more talk concerning the climate and probably the weather focus. Will it shine? Will it rain? Well, Mullen will be able to fill us in. Good morning, Uganda. We'll be back just in a few minutes.
Are your children ready to learn? Schools are open. As parents and guardians, it is your duty to ensure that your children go back to school. COVID-19 prevention measures have been put in place to keep students safe as they go back to school. Not only do teachers prioritize everyone's health, including their own, but they discourage violence among students. They also ensure that students follow SOPs. Any concerns are reported to a school administrator or senior woman or man teacher for correction and further guidance. Dear parents and guardians, you too must play your role. Ensure your children always maintain a 2-meter distance from others, avoid crowded places, regularly wash their hands with soap and water, and wear a washed and clean face mask that covers their mouths and noses. Please keep your children at home if they're feeling sick, and take note. In our effort to keep students safe, there are no visitation days or any other school visits allowed. Let's share knowledge, not COVID-19. This message is supported by the Ministry of Health, Ministry of Education and Sports, and UNICEF. Stay safe.
When COVID came, it felt like it destroyed everything my mom had built. She was ready to let go of her dreams. But when one door shuts a window opens. She grabbed her last command and took a leap of faith. She refused to give up. So with a bit of daring and Grandma's secret recipe, her business was back. And not just bigger, beyond her wildest imagination.
This is a story of a regular Ugandan just like you, who harnessed the power of technology to provide a solution for us. How about you tell us your story? UG needs more of you. To share your story, visit airtel.co.ug/UG needs more of you, or call or SMS 162. Airtel, the smartphone network.
It's no secret that ICT makes learning easy.
The strides made in our field couldn't be possible without it.
And now we can watch our favorite show.
My radio is my best friend.
UCC provides an enabling regulatory environment and policy guidance for healthy competition. We also facilitate ease of doing business in the communications sector through licensing, standardization, spectrum management, tariff regulation, rural communication development, and consumer empowerment. An informed consumer is an empowered consumer. UCC supports local content and innovations. Driving the development of a robust communication sector in Uganda is Uganda Communications Commission.
Choose our with Airtel Money Quick Loans. Get a top-up loan when you have insufficient funds to buy airtime, pay utility bills, or make payments at a local supermarket. Complete your transaction and pay later. Dial *185*7*10# to opt in. Get an Airtel Money Quick Loan and pay later. Choose our with Airtel Money Quick Loans in partnership with Housing Finance Bank and powered by Yabex. Airtel, the smartphone network.
Now, on this, in the papers this morning, starting off with the Daily Monitor, the big headline over there, Dolo apologizes to Kabaka over attack. Now, he says that he has unequivocally and unreservedly apologized to the Kabaka of Uganda, and the story is definitely over there in the paper. And we look at Olanya Barrio to cost 2.5 billion Uganda shillings, and there is a breakdown on how it's going to actually be segmented: security, Barrio Day, fuel, actually MPs, finance committee, and the A+ services that will be hands-on to make sure that everything goes on as planned. And why private sector credit growth has actually been restrained. And over 13,000 Congolese refugees flee to Uganda. Another, refugee crisis that we can see. And the lizard is out there doing what it does most. How man got law degree in Luzira prison, and he learned his law the hard way. Of course, all that is in the paper, and also quite a sad story over here where a child drowns in Munyonyo pool as parents party. And to the second page, today in history, Makere plans to go independent. And still also in history, Idi Amin flees into exile. And quite an interesting picture over there from the archives where Mr. Paul Kagame and Miss Rebecca Kadaga, then Minister of State for Regional Cooperation, were addressing a press conference in Kampala back in 1996.
Well, and in the New Vision today, we look at the big headline there on President Museveni promises to end insecurity. But who is behind the killings in Karamoja? That is the big question right there that is heading the New Vision for today. But also, Saudi national arrested over missing housemate. That story is in detail on page 8 of the New Vision. But also the New Vision shows you memories of General Tumwine narrating Olanya's encounter. That is right there on page 7 of the New Vision for today. In her vision, we look at how women should handle bias at work. Interesting one right there. But also IALA Speaker Mons Iolanya. There is a big picture right there that shows the IALA Speaker Ngoga Martin, and in his company are the Speaker of Parliament Anita Among and Deputy Thomas Tayebwa right there also mourning the fallen Speaker of Parliament. Now, legislators on the titles face criminal charges. Well, that is also right there as UNBS to regulate Nsenene. That is the standard right there on Uganda's delicacy. And also why FDC celebrates Among Tayebwa win. Also heading over to court on Segilinya Sewanyana committed to High Court. More of that on page 6 of the New Vision for today. But on page 2 also it shows you Coffee City to create business opportunities for the youth, and that is also right there. But today in history we also look at Minister orders release of prisoners. That was on 29th of March 1970.
And moving on to the Daily Monitor, Sports Advantage North Africa, and still looking at the World Cup qualifiers, the weekend results. Well, all these are in. And remember, we have about 237 days to go for the FIFA World Cup Qatar 2022. And when you get into the second page, if you're a fan of Formula One, well, we look at Red Bull's Dutch Max Verstappen celebrating after winning the Saudi Arabia Grand Prix. It was quite an interesting race. I don't know if you love Formula One, Mullen, but I'll tell you, I picked interest, and it's quite an intriguing game, I'll tell you for sure, and very interesting.
Yeah, it should be. I don't know, I'm not so much a fan of motorsport, but I follow closely.
Okay.
Yeah. But looking at the New Vision Sport also for today, where are the real referees? Now, some football referees have been suspended in the past years, according to records, and also that is shown with some of the hints on, the players from Vipers Express, looking at referees right there. And there is a big picture there of referee Ronald Mudanda, who was suspended by FUFA. But also defending in the draws, you look at the World Cup qualifiers, and also giving a table of who will be versus who. There's actually much more on, the rest with the African, countries over there on the New Vision Sport for today. But also on page 2, they show you much more of how Onyango's shot 18 is inspiring goalkeepers, not just across Uganda, but across the continent. And also looking more into Joshua Tukahebwa, that is in the knockout. That is also right there with the boxing club also that he plays for.
And taking you to the Daily Nation, return of the 400s. And there are quite some pictures over there, parents and students celebrating the, champions of the KCPE. Apparently the number of candidates scoring 400 marks and above almost doubled in 2021 compared to 2020s. And of course, there is a number of the top candidates nationally, showing their results. And of course, very excited and happy. Well, good for them, and there is quite a whole detailed list of the top performers nationally, so I think this would come in handy, especially if you are really enthusiastic about the Kenyan education. So make sure you grab yourself the Daily Nation to get all this information and all the details. While taking you back to the poll question this morning, where we wanted to find out from you how you actually think Uganda will be able to benefit from the inclusion of the DRC into the East African community, which definitely will be bringing the number of countries, the total number of countries in this community, about 7. And that was, will DRC's inclusion into the East African community be impactful in the economic growth of East Africa? And yes, some feedback has actually started trickling in. Coming in from you, Derek from Makindye, you're saying it's such a nice move for DRC to join the East African community. Since Congo is much known for gold mining, its inclusion to the ESC will be relevant mostly for trade industry, and it will benefit all members. United we stand. Thank you so much, Derek. Keep the feedback coming in. We need to pick a brain from you. But also, time for the traffic updates. What's happening on our roads this Tuesday morning? Now, and it started off with quite some drizzles in some areas this morning, but also some heavy rains were in several other areas. Now, you know what that means. Definitely, there'll be some traffic hiccups here and there concerning several of these roads for as long as you're trying to access the city center. And this morning, I am going to focus on Kawempe division. That includes, of course, areas of Komamboga, Chisasi, Chebando, and also Gayaza Road as you're trying to access the city center. Now, if you're coming in from Komamboga, well, the situation is a bit, I can say, quite manageable, because we have a number of green lines over there showing that if you're leaving Komamboga right about now as you're trying to access the city center, it shouldn't be taking you quite some time, as really you can see from here Komamboga Road and connects you to Waligo Road. The green stretch definitely shows you that it's crystal clear for you to access the city center. If you're coming from areas of Komamboga and beyond, that is of course Chanja if you're coming in from Gayaza, because there are other shorter routes that connect you to this Komamboga, as you can see over there, Prime Chanja. However, the problem comes as you're accessing Chebando. Now, the oranges here are quite dominant, and there is also some red spot over here. The traffic is very intense and heavy in these areas, so you need to plan accordingly. Over here, there is a junction, of course, where you could get off to Bahai Road and indeed connect to Kisasi. That shortcut is a very clear path for you. However, it's not a given that you won't find any other traffic hiccups as you go on. Chisasi, on the other hand, is really not looking so good, as orange here is dominating. The traffic buildup is quite intense. We have red spots over here, so you need to plan accordingly. And of course, you go on all the way as you connect to Chebando. Chebando this morning actually seems quite manageable, which is really a shocker, because these are usually some of the town centers or some of the suburbs that are quite very busy with traffic any day. So you need to plan accordingly and find all shortcuts that can definitely connect you to Chebando, which is quite a very good move. Now, away from Chebando, definitely you will go on as you're trying to join Mawanda Road. Mawanda Road is very, very intense. The red stretch is very, very long, and then orange also quite, it's very crazy. The traffic is usually crazy, and it's because it's joining very many other roads as you're trying to access the old Chira Road. Now, the red line over here is something that you need to take note of, and the orange, it's very, very dominant. So if you can, please avoid Mawanda Road and try to see where else you can connect to old Chira Road as you're trying to access the city center, you know, to just actually beat the traffic. And when it comes to Chira Road is quite manageable, whether you're using it to access the city center as indicated by these arrows, or even leaving the city center. It's quite manageable, and that's because the traffic is still in the other outskirts. Well, that's it from the traffic updates. If you're coming in from these areas of Komamboga, if you're coming in from the areas of Chebando, if you're coming in from areas of Chisasi, well, that is quite a good it's a route that you need to make sure you access, but you can also use other alternatives, other shortcuts, and take a detour of Well, when it comes to the traffic updates, definitely that's it for this morning. But also to get onto the climate from Mullen. Mullen, I'm going to tell you something. There is something quite the government of Uganda has actually done. They have put aside a certain amount of money to make sure that they try to get rid of climate changes in several districts in Uganda. Actually, they're going to pilot this in about 12 districts. And among the list of them, of course, I saw Ntungamo, I saw Padel. You know, the list is endless. But I mean, this is a big deal for Uganda as a country to see that we are putting an effort into climate change. It's quite it's positive, it's progress, I'm sure, because you have been here making noise. Uganda needs to be part of this climate change fight, and now seeing that Uganda has earmarked some funds for this climate change, I mean, what does that mean for us as Uganda as a country? And also seeing that we are putting some efforts into this whole climate change, because I know at the end of the day we give priority to some things, but when it comes to climate, I don't know. But this, I was impressed. What do you think, Molly?
Well, it actually comes in as good news for sure, because at least for the first time this year, we're seeing a commitment on doing money for climate change mitigation. Because at this point, Philomena, we cannot stop what is happening. But what we can do is make sure we have the finances to cope with what is going on. But again, I won't say that, you know, I'm 100% ecstatic about this amount, because if you look at, you know, what they're talking about, it's only 237, you know, around that billion Ugandan shillings. And for me to curb the challenge of climate change, we need more finances. And I only hope this is not like an annual pay that they're looking at. We need more money, because guess what? Look at, you know, issues of infrastructure. We have had a lot of bridges that get swept away because of, you know, this flooding, and it will take years and years to rebuild them, all because we don't have the finances. So if you're putting across a fund for climate change mitigation, you need more of that. However, bagamba nyama ntono kayana elimu, something like that. So at least it's a positive direction that we are taking, but we need more money for that. For sure.
Well, we did. At least we can just be very appreciative that there are some efforts that are being put into play over here. So I know that we're starting this journey and we won't be able to stop it. Well, just reminding you of the poll question this morning, definitely that is how or what do you actually think about the Democratic Republic of Congo's inclusion into the East African community? Do you think it's actually going to be impactful in the economic growth of East Africa? Will DRC's inclusion into the East African community be impactful in the economic growth of East Africa? Well, quite a number of you are still coming through with the feedback over here on our live stream on YouTube. And Flavia Loyo, you're actually saying rest in peace, pal. And from you, Clovis Kamanyire, you're saying you are live in Fort Portal and you're following up. Quite interesting. Thank you for being able to wake up with us. And Oluka, you're actually talking about the salary increment. And well, you're saying it should have been yesterday. Quite some time they have taken, but I mean, it's already here. And you're saying it's important that they never sleep on their jobs. And from Bwango Patrick, well, thanks for watching right from Ramkora Chenjojo. Well, keep sharing your feedback with us. Definitely we'll be sharing it with the rest of Uganda as Good Morning Uganda follows or still goes on all the way. That is it from the traffic updates. My name is Philomena Masco, and have a great and wonderful Tuesday morning.
Well, thank you, Philomena, and we'll take it from there. Someone right here was telling me, Molin, you're being ungrateful. Well, I'm not being ungrateful, but since this fund is actually looking more into the water management, even the targeted districts that we're talking about, it's actually a good thing, because you look at districts that are bordering, you know, the Choga region, the Albert, the Upper Nile, which is where we have, you know, districts of Padel, Pakwach, Chivale, Kabong, also targeted for the districts that will be benefiting from this money. But now Uganda joins also some of your top 6 least developed countries that are looking into implementing such initiatives. And that is mostly the likes of Ethiopia, Malawi, Burkina Faso, and Gambia that have already taken up such initiatives to put funds when it comes to water management across, you know, some of these areas, especially those that are close to lake bodies, because they are more prone to, you know, instances of, you know, even the flooding that we talk about as extreme weather events. But well, away from that, there is also something that did come out from, as we were celebrating World Meteorological Day. Now the UN has, you know, worked with the World Meteorological Organization to make sure they set up a plan of how we are going to deal with extreme weather events in the next 5 years. Now, this is a plan that they have put out. And according to them, in the next 5 years, every country in this world will be able to give early warning systems onto when the extreme weather events are going to happen. So imagine this. Maybe we are going to have a landslide in Bududa in maybe like a week's time or 2 weeks. Now, the World Meteorological Organization is saying that with the plan that they have, with all, you know, the resources that they are putting across to make sure every country benefits, we will be able to tell you that is before it happens, instead of waiting for the aftermath. Now, this is something that they're really looking forward to, but also they are mentioning that to have that, there needs to be an investment of about $1.5 billion in the next 5 years to predict extreme weather events. Now that was given out by the Secretary General Pateli. That was yesterday. But also in the same report, they're looking at the fact that today we have about 5 times of extreme weather events across the world. And guess who are affected most? We're looking at mostly developing countries and most of the areas that have been at the forefront of most of these events, like the cyclones that we have talked about, especially for Africa. This has been Madagascar, one of the areas that has been worst hit by tropical cyclones just in, the past few months of the year. And that has been highlighted also for more of the developing countries. Looking at droughts, we did have a lot of drought events across Africa as well, especially looking at North Africa. And all these areas have been in the highlight of being worst hit. But what can be done? The report also shows that ever since the 1970s, we have had a lot of these events, doubling to 5 times more than what we are seeing, what was there in the 70s. But also what is needed is that more money is projected to be put across, and we could be looking at more losses if we do not curb this, if we do not put down the strategies that have been laid out by the UN organization, that is the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change, together with WMO. And they are also talking about that in order to make sure that we curb this, we also have to look into climate action. And this is where we also come in as developing countries to say, yes, there is climate action, but we need to also focus on adaptation. Although there are things you cannot adapt to. You cannot adapt to people dying because of extreme weather events. You cannot adapt to, destruction of infrastructure because there was, a heavy flood that took down bridges. You cannot adapt to that. So while we also need finances to get us going, we need to mitigate. We need to stop what is happening. Instead of channeling our money in investing in, the less clean energy, how about we invest in clean energy? And that is how we're going to get to that goal. So even when we have commitments from all these organizations saying, yes, we need money, and like you saw, Uganda just got that money, looking at about 237 billion Uganda shillings to chew into just 10 districts. That means that it shows you the extent of how much money can be put across for the whole country. Obviously, this is not going to be enough if we're going to look at how many areas are being affected by extreme weather events, which is why we're still talking more about, climate action. But well, away from that, we also want to take a look into the weather that is happening across the country for this morning, but also tap into satellites that we have across Uganda, mostly looking into the UMITSAT satellites. But also we'll be getting into the forecast for this morning that is given out by the Uganda National Meteorological Authority to look into which areas are faring in terms of weather and temperature. I can tell you one thing, we're actually starting off with quite cool weather for this morning. We have seen temperatures drop up to the lower 20s, and that is kind of good news, I would think. But anyway, let's start off with the forecast with the Mount Elgon part of the country, that is Mbale, Bududa, Buko, and Sironko. We are forecasting isolated showers. Dot is also starting at a cool 23 degrees for this morning. We do expect that system to continue into the afternoon. We look at the southwestern part of the country where we have Mbale, Ibanda, Bushenyi, and Rubirizi. We are forecasting light showers. Those will be across several places within the region and also likely to start off with a cool 24 degrees centigrade. We also expect those rains to continue into the afternoon across several places. The western side of Lake Victoria, we already have those clouds moving in across the area. That is, we have Masaka, Kalisizo, Zimbabwe, Rakai. We are forecasting isolated rains, and that is starting off with cool 24 as well. We do expect that system to continue later in the day. The eastern part of Central, we have Ruwero, Woblenzi, Bururi, Nakaseke. We do have Nakasongola in that category as well. We are forecasting isolated rains, starting off with a 127 degrees centigrade. Looks like that will be getting only warmer in the afternoon as we expect a continuation of sunny intervals. But across the central part of northern Uganda, we do have Gulu, Jumani, Kituguma, and Padel. We are forecasting light rains. We already have a little bit of clouds moving towards that area. That will be starting off at a warm 28 degrees centigrade. Across the central parts of Lake Victoria, we have Kampala, Entebbe, Wakiso and Mukono. We are forecasting those rains. We did start off with most of those much earlier in the day, but we do expect that system to keep around as the day continues, starting off with a cool 23 degrees centigrade. Well, across the western side of Lake Victoria, still likely to have those rains again, starting off with the 24, but we will be having that system likely to continue into the afternoon. That means we might be dealing with much more of those rains across the Lake Victoria Basin for much of today. But also for eastern Uganda, Soroti, Katakwi, Amuria, Kumi, we are looking at intervals of sunny and cloudy conditions, but we will be having those rains as well coming through as the day goes by, starting off with a warm 26 degrees centigrade for now, but that will be getting warmer in the afternoon. The eastern side of Lake Victoria, we do have Tororo, Busia, Iganga and Jinja. We're forecasting isolated showers. Now that will also be starting off with a warm 26 degrees centigrade, but will clear in the afternoon to mostly sunny conditions over the eastern part of Lake Victoria. Now it looks like here in the central part of Lake Victoria, we're starting off with quite some cool weather. We're looking at mostly 23, but we do have that cloudy system that is moving in. If you can look at that from the satellite that we have, that is where we have those deep dark red to yellow and orange colors. Those are the rainy systems that we have for now, stretching across the Albertine region, across Midwestern Hoima, but also there is one that is stretching from Lake Victoria, heading towards areas of Entebbe, Wakiso, and also a little bit of Kampala. Now, mostly cloudy conditions for the southern sector. That is the same system that will be keeping us with mostly cloudy conditions for this morning. And also much of that contributing to the cold weather that we have. So yes, I think, don't be quick to take down that sweater. You might need it for much of the day. Basically, across the southern sector of the country today, I would say it's like a repeat of yesterday. We did have temperatures going down for much of yesterday, and we could be looking at a similar trend even for today. However, Karamoja continues with mostly sunny conditions, and that is also the same across mostly the eastern part of the country. So at least there, temperatures are still equally high for that region. But we will continue with mostly, we're looking at a cloudy morning and mostly cold morning. Like I said, don't be quick to take down that sweater. But well, I'll leave you at that. We do have Good Morning Uganda agenda coming up, and Robert will be here to take you through that. But also later, we will be having sports highlights. You can continue with us even when you're leaving home. We're streaming live on YouTube, that is UBC Television Uganda, but also on Twitter at #UBCGMU. My name is Molly Kenyana. I want to wish you a good day.
The Microfinance Support Center is marking 20 years of financial inclusion, starting with the Dr. Kisamba Mugera Memorial Lecture on the 29th of March at Hotel Africana. Dr. Kisamba Mugera was the board chairperson of the Microfinance Support Center from 2018 until his untimely death in January 2021. While at MSC, he spearheaded several initiatives to promote financial inclusion, especially of the slum and ghetto communities. Dr. Fred Muhumuza, Dr. Rachel Mindra, and Mr. James Kakshi are among panelists that will discuss the topic leveraging microfinance to spur the slum and ghetto economy. The Microfinance Support Center, 20 years of financial inclusion.
Pick of the day on UBC, brought to you by
how to get points. Just use MTN to make calls, send SMS, load airtime, buy bundles, or pay for MTN subscription services.
Everywhere you go, MTN.
Pay for your dream phone, Mpola. Get your dream phone today for as low as 1,400 Uganda shillings with free data for a year and pay slowly. All phones come with daily 50 MBs for 12 months. Repayment period is 1 year. Available at MTN service centers and M-Kopa shops.
COVID-19 is still here with us. As Professor Maggie Chigozi states, the time is now for all of us to get vaccinated.
When we have one person who's not vaccinated, it affects everybody around them, most especially the ones close to you. Keep your family safe. Anyone right now who's over 18 should go and get vaccinated.
Because of the new COVID-19 circulating variants like Omicron, it is very important for all of us to be fully vaccinated with 2 doses of the same vaccine type. It's only those getting Johnson & Johnson who receive only a single dose to be fully protected.
Even after vaccination, continue to adhere to all SOPs by wearing a mask properly, covering your mouth and nose, washing your hands regularly with soap and clean water, or using an alcohol-based sanitizer, maintaining physical distance of at least 2 meters from others, and avoiding crowds. Echa COVID-19, chija kugwa. This message is from the Ministry of Health with support from UNICEF and partners.
Choose our with Airtel Money Quick Loans. Get a top-up loan when you have insufficient funds to buy airtime, pay utility bills, or make payments at a local supermarket. Complete your transaction and pay later. Dial *185*7*10# to opt in. Get an Airtel Money Quick Loan and pay later. Choose our with Airtel Money Quick Loans in partnership with Housing Finance Bank and powered by Yabex. Airtel, the smartphone network.
When you talk about our motherland Uganda, the Pearl of Africa, you cannot fail to smile because of the smile that fills the faces of the citizens. Our nice good weather and nature that sustains us all, that enables us all to continue each in their own way because we are all different even according to each individual's work. But what joins us to become one person is the sweetness from the flavored drink Alleluia Jingati drink and Alleluia Tamarind drink. The flavor that quenches your thirst while at the same time treating and healing your body because it is 100% natural. Enjoy the drink that has got the tamarind juice in it. Made by Alleluia Reflexology, Healthy Solutions and Nutritional Research Center Limited. Get yourself a bottle of Alleluia from all shops around.
At exactly 7 minutes past the top of the hour, welcome to Good Morning Uganda Agenda. And thank you so much for keeping it with us here on UBC TV, where every morning we are here to inspire you, ensure you're well aware of what is trending locally and internationally on the realm of current affairs. Once again, I'm Robert Chirabonyonyintono, and today we are honored to have one of the people, when we talk about cooperatives in this country, that has been